There's a question most people are afraid to ask out loud. What does it mean when someone has no friends? Not a small circle, not just a few close people, but actually no one. No regular companions. No one to call, no one who calls them. And before you think this is rare, consider this. Studies show that nearly 1 in 5 people report having no close friends at all. That's millions of people moving through life in complete social isolation, invisible, unnoticed, alone. But here's what makes this complicated. When we see someone without friends, we immediately assume something's wrong with them. They must be weird, difficult, broken somehow. And sometimes that's true, but often the reality is far more complex, far more human, and far more heartbreaking than we imagine. Let's start with what it actually feels like to have no friends. Imagine waking up every single day knowing that no one is thinking about you, no one's going to text you, no one's wondering how you are. You could disappear tomorrow, and it would take weeks, maybe months, before anyone noticed. Psychologists call this social invisibility, and it has profound effects on mental health. Humans are tribal creatures. We evolved to live in groups, to be seen, recognized, valued by others. When that's absent, something fundamental breaks down inside us. Studies on isolation show that chronic loneliness affects the brain similarly to physical pain. It triggers the same neural pathways. Your brain literally interprets social isolation as a threat to survival, because for most of human history, being cast out from the tribe meant death. Here's what people misunderstand. There's no single reason someone ends up friendless. Some people lose their friends gradually through life transitions. They move to a new city for work. Their old friends get married and drift away. And suddenly, they're starting from zero in their 30s, 40s, 50s. When making new friends feels impossible. Others never had friends to begin with. Maybe they grew up in an abusive home where they learned that people are dangerous, that vulnerability leads to pain, so they built walls so high that no one could climb them. Some people are neurodivergent, struggling with social cues and unwritten rules that everyone else seems to understand instinctively. They want friends desperately, but every interaction feels like speaking a foreign language without a translator. And then there are those who've been betrayed so deeply that they've lost faith in friendship altogether. Someone they trusted destroyed them, and now they can't risk it again. So they choose isolation not because they want to be alone, but because being alone feels safer than being hurt. Here's where it gets complicated. Most people without friends desperately want them. They crave connection, but at the same time, they're terrified of it. Psychologists call this the approach-avoidance conflict. You want something badly, but you're also deeply afraid of it. Why? Because if you've never had close friends, or if you've lost them traumatically, friendship becomes this mythical thing you're not sure you deserve. There's a voice inside that whispers, if people really knew you, they wouldn't like you. You're too much, too weird, too damaged, too boring. So when someone shows interest, your first instinct isn't gratitude, it's suspicion. What do they want? Why would they choose me? And you start testing them, pushing them away to see if they'll stay. And of course, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Social skills are learned. They're not innate. And like any skill, if you don't practice them, you don't develop them. Think about social interaction like a language. If you grow up speaking it, it becomes natural. But if you grow up isolated, you never learn that language fluently. You don't know when to speak, when to listen, how much to share, how to read someone's body language. These aren't mysterious talents, they're skills. But if no one taught you, and you've had no opportunity to practice, you're fumbling in the dark. And here's the cruel part. Other people can sense it. Not consciously necessarily, but they feel the awkwardness, the desperation, the trying too hard. And they interpret it as something's off about that person rather than that person never learned how to do this. One of the most toxic aspects of having no friends is the shame, because in our culture, having friends is considered proof of worth. If people like you, you must be valuable. If no one likes you, you must be defective. So people without friends carry this enormous weight of shame. They lie about it. They invent fictional friends. They avoid questions about their weekend because saying I was alone feels like admitting failure. But here's what research shows. Most people are far more compassionate than we imagine. When someone admits they're lonely or friendless, the typical response isn't judgment, it's recognition. Because almost everyone has felt lonely at some point. We live in the most connected era in human history. We have social media, dating apps, friend-finding apps, online communities for every interest imaginable. Yet loneliness and friendlessness are at epidemic levels. How does that make sense? Because digital connection is not real connection. You can have 1,000 followers and 0 friends. You can be in 100 group chats and still feel completely alone. Because what we're getting online is attention, not intimacy. It's performance, not presence. Real friendship requires vulnerability, consistency, and physical presence. It requires showing up when it's inconvenient, seeing someone at their worst, being seen at yours, building trust over time. Let's talk about what chronic friendlessness does to your body. Studies show that people without social connections have weaker immune systems, higher inflammation levels, increased risk of heart disease, and even shortened lifespans. Loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Your body interprets isolation as danger. Cortisol levels rise. Sleep quality decreases. Your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode. And there's a cruel irony here. The stress of being friendless makes you less capable of making friends. You become more anxious, more depressed, more irritable. If you're someone without friends, what do? How do you break a pattern that might have existed for years, decades, your entire life? First, understand this. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're human. And what you're experiencing is painful, but it's not permanent unless you believe it is. Start small. Don't try to go from 0 to a full social life overnight. Focus on micro connections. A regular barista who knows your order. A person in your building you nod to. An online community where you comment consistently. These aren't friendships yet, but they're practice. Consider this too. Maybe you don't need many friends. Maybe you need one. Research shows that having even a single close friend dramatically improves mental health, life satisfaction, and longevity. You don't need to be popular. You just need to be known by someone who cares. And finally, be honest. Stop pretending you're fine if you're not. Stop hiding your loneliness like it's shameful. Because when you're vulnerable about your experience, you give others permission to be vulnerable too. Here's what I need you to understand. Having no friends doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means you haven't found your people yet. Or you haven't healed enough to let them in. Or you're in the wrong environment. But it doesn't mean you're fundamentally flawed. Because friendship isn't magic. It's not fate. It's not luck. It's intention, effort, vulnerability, and time. It's showing up consistently. It's being brave enough to be seen. It's choosing people and letting them choose you back. And if you're someone with friends, someone who's never experienced this kind of isolation, I want you to understand something. The people without friends aren't invisible because they're hiding. They're invisible because we're not looking. That coworker who eats lunch alone every day, they might be desperately lonely. That neighbour who never joins community events, they might be terrified of rejection. It costs you almost nothing to say hello, to smile, to ask a simple question and actually listen to the answer. Because sometimes the difference between a life of isolation and a life of connection is one person who decided to care. One person who saw past the awkwardness or the silence and said, "I see you, you matter." So here's what it comes down to. Having no friends is painful. It's damaging. It's one of the hardest things a human can experience. But it's not a life sentence. You can be friendless today and surrounded by people who love you a year from now. That transformation is possible. It's happening for people every single day, but it requires something from you. It requires courage to be vulnerable, willingness to be rejected, patience with yourself as you learn, and faith that somewhere out there are people who will understand you, accept you, choose you. They're looking for you too. They're also lonely. They're also waiting. They're also wondering if friendship is even possible anymore. And maybe the most beautiful thing about human connection is this. It only takes two people willing to try. Two people brave enough to be honest. Two people who decide that being known is worth the risk of being hurt. You could be one of those people. Today, right now. The only question is, are you willing? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.